All right, I promise this is not a false alarm. We are getting started. First, I'd like to thank you all and welcome you to our 2017 Holiday Forecast webinar. As many of you in the retail space know, there is no more important time of year than the holiday season. And because of that, it also tends to be one of the most competitive times of year as well. What we like to do at NetElixir is take a look at the entire retail industry and try to put our predictions and forecasts forward so you know what to expect this holiday season, as well as giving you some tips, tricks, and advice so that you can win in the competitive holiday landscape. But first, before we jump into our forecasts and tips, a little bit about NetElixir and who we are. NetElixir is a group of 100 plus fanatically analytical search marketers. We currently operate in 3 countries across the globe, giving us nearly complete 24-hour coverage for all your search marketing needs. We are a premier partner for both Google and Bing, and also have strategic alliances with companies like UPS in their customer technology program and Forrester. We like to combine our expertise along with our proprietary technology to make sure that we are giving you the best search marketing experience you can have. Some of our clients include large companies in the retail space such as Foster Grant, Lenovo, Elf Cosmetics, Ashley Stewart, Teleflora, and nearly 100 others. We have coverage across nearly every single category and segment in the retail space, and we are proud to announce that we are a fully retail-based agency, meaning everything we do is living and breathing retail. Now, we'd like to think that our company is broken down into 3 main buckets, the first of which is our services, which include paid search, PLAs, shopping management, and anything to drive new customers to your website. The second being organic search and search engine optimization strategies, and finally topping it off with paid social media advertising. In addition to our agency services, we're also proud to have some of the best technology in the market, including the Elixir Marketplace, which democratizes digital marketing for all businesses and provides free search marketing tools for anyone that needs them. Elixir Guide is the first tool of its kind, combining machine learning and advanced algorithms to help automate the paid search process and make it easy for anyone to do. And finally, Elixir SEO, which is one of the most advanced SEO toolkits and task managers for SMBs. Finally, there's a consulting component to everything we do, and we make sure that all of our clients are able to get services that include web analytics, digital marketing strategy, executive dashboard design, and many of the strategic insights that we bring to the table that only a retail-focused agency could. One of our goals is helping companies succeed by humanizing every click. Now, sometimes you can get a little jaded, and you can simply think of your online marketing as how many clicks did I get, how many conversions did I get. We try to take a step back and understand that clicks happen because people are searching for products. And we're here to look at those people, understand the customer journey they take to get from discovering your product to purchasing and then to becoming repeat buyers. And we use that information to build meaningful and lasting programs. Today, you're going to be hearing from our CEO, Udayan Bose, who is the founder and the current leader of NetElixir. Now, back in his internet venture days, Udayan was one of the founders of Party Bingo, which was a piece of party gaming, a company that IPO'd for over £8 billion on the London Exchange, making Udayan one of the original tech entrepreneurs and one of the heads of a company that was at one time bigger than Google. Udayan is currently a guest lecturer at the Johnson School of Management at Cornell University and has lectured at City University of New York and the Indian School of Business. I encourage all of you, please connect with Udayan on LinkedIn. You can see his specific URL there, or feel free to search for him and connect. He is more than happy to answer your questions, share some strategies, or even just have a good old academic discussion with you. So for anyone curious about following up from here, I do encourage you to connect with him moving forward. From here, I'm going to hand off the reins and hand the microphone to Udayan, and he'll jump into the 2017 holiday forecast.
Stephen, thank you for almost like a embarrassingly flaunting introduction. Hi, everyone. It is absolutely my privilege to conduct our ninth holiday forecast webinar. As you can see, we have been doing this since the first time we did this webinar was in August 2008. We track a set of our customers. So this is all actual real data. We have been tracking their key metrics every quarter and specifically every day during the holiday season since 2008, making us, I think, one of the first companies to really start with this forecasting process. Overall, our database, or the data set, has expanded quite substantially. And at this point in time, our holiday forecasts are based on actual real-time data on clicks, conversions, average order value, click-through rates, etc. For retailers who between them do more than $400 million during just the holiday season, which is the months of November and December. For this research, we have considered over 450 million sessions across 5 primary holiday verticals. The first one being gourmet food, the second is apparel and shoes, the third one is home decor, then we have the gifting, and then the consumer electronics. So between these 5 verticals, they account for almost about 75% of all the holiday transactions. And that's the reason we sort of felt on this thing. Just again, a clarification, we have included jewelry also as a part of the apparel and the shoes segment as well. So overall, we tend to make these projections based on a few things. The first of that is how exactly has the overall year-on-year growth been in the various key metrics. And when we say key metrics, this is not just the paid search component, but this is the overall e-commerce key metrics, where we tend to focus a little bit more on the revenues, the overall orders, and the average order value, and try to do a bit of a quarter-by-quarter, year-on-year growth comparison. So overall, we saw the orange line essentially denotes this year, and the red line essentially is pertaining to the same period for 2016. The year started off very strong. We experienced a year-on-year growth in 2017 first quarter of about 17%, which was significantly higher than what we had seen 2016 versus 2015 of just about 7%. So that was a significantly higher growth. Very interestingly, this growth difference kept on reducing through the quarter. So overall, in terms of the number of orders as well, essentially, I think as you have seen, essentially the first bar was significantly higher, but in the second quarter, it has come down quite substantially. So there are very clear trends. The average order value fell as well, but again, Q1 normally tends to be a little heavier just because of the a very strong January as well. So the key observation in this part was that there's something was going on in the latter half of the second quarter, where somehow, in fact, the very specific date was May 27th. May 27th onwards, the year-on-year growth came down quite substantially, and I'm talking about a fairly large data set of mid-size and large e-commerce customers. And as I mentioned, they really sort of account for about $400 million plus of holiday e-commerce sales. We continue tracking, and this is still work in progress, but one of the things that we have seen is to be a fairly good and a strong predictor of the holiday season sales or the e-commerce sales is the back-to-school data. And this is just some initial back-to-school data. We have taken the period of 27th of July till 10th of August, so very, very fresh data as such. And effectively, the orders have grown by about 8%, while the revenue has grown by 9%. Now, if I go back to the previous slide, you would see that in the second quarter, the orders have the growth in orders year on year has come down to about 6%. So thankfully, the back to school so far has been stronger than 6%, but it is still smaller than the 15% that we saw in the second quarter in terms of order. I mean, the first quarter that we saw in number of orders as such. So overall, I think though it has gone up, there is a little bit of a bump, but it is still slower than the first quarter. It is marginally higher than the second quarter, which is always a good sign. Moving on, one of the things that we have been tracking very clearly is Amazon's share of total online retail. I mean, very clearly, the US e-commerce has become almost synonymous with Amazon's continuing growth, almost like a juggernaut, and the increasing market share. So, and we have been tracking this since 2014. The way that we track this is we as Stephen mentioned, we work with a fairly huge range of customers, and we tend to actually measure their sales that they do via Amazon versus their website. And we are able to sort of catch these shifts as to how much of a business is really shifting from being sold through their website versus being sold on Amazon. Obviously, it sort of incur and factors in a little bit of the inflationary component, etc., etc. So that's where I think the key is. Now, as you can see in 2014, at least in our data set, Amazon accounted for about 22% of the overall online holiday sales. So if $100 were invested in holidays, Amazon had about $20 to $22 share essentially out of that. That increased to about 25.5% in 2015, went up to about 30% last year, which was a pretty strong jump from 2015 to 2016. And then this year, we are sort of continuing to see that constant domination of Amazon and grabbing their more market share. It has been led by multiple things. I sort of touch on some of these factors as I sort of move forward. Marketplaces obviously have had a huge role to play. There are a ton of SMB businesses which are now preferring to sell through Amazon rather than focusing as much on the website. Based on all these projections, we believe that Amazon's share of total online holiday sales this year will grow to as high as 34%. Yeah, that's a huge number. That's basically $1 in every $3 which has been invested by online holiday shoppers will really go to Amazon's pockets. Overall, based on all these various trends, again, this is based on our data set, which, as I mentioned, aggregates to about $400 million in terms of holiday online sales volume. As such, we are predicting a little slower. We are using what I would say a bit of a cautious optimism. So, though we are optimistic about the holiday season, but there is a bit of a cautionary tone out here, just because of the slowdown that we saw in the months of June and July. Though the back to school has been marginally higher than the reasonably slow months of June and July, we prefer to exercise cautious optimism, and we are forecasting a 10% year-on-year e-commerce growth. Now, this overall e-commerce growth essentially is what we are projecting for this holiday season. Very specifically, how does it really compare to the previous years? Now, as I mentioned, we have been doing it since 2008, so this is our 9th year, but this is the last 4 years plus this year's projection. In 2013, and these are based on the actual data from the ComScore database. So 2013, the year-on-year growth was 10%. So this 2017, we are projecting the same levels as 2013. 2014, 15 were very strong years for e-commerce. I mean, the year-on-year growth, as you can see, was significantly higher at about 13%. 2016, it came down a little bit to about 10.6%, and 2017, we prefer to maintain the caution. I must add in a very interesting comment out here. We have been doing this projections since 2008, as I mentioned. 2008 was the first holiday season. And we have been sort of coming up with this forecast, which have been very widely covered by press as well. Except with the exception about 3 years, which was 2009, 10, and 12, our forecasts have been exactly matched the final results, which have been basically sort of published by ComScore as well as the National Retail Foundation (NRF) as well. So for some reason, the data set that we really map tends to lend itself very well, because at the end of it, every company which is doing a forecast is trying to extrapolate and extend and trying to really sort of go ahead and make this projection for the entire US economy. And obviously, any data set would be very small, just given the size and the breadth of the economy. But we have found that this small group of about 120 to 150 accounts that we sort of track to come up with our forecasts, essentially, for some reason, have been almost scarily accurate. So we stand by very strongly with our 10% number for this holiday season. There are three factors which are responsible for slightly slower growth, the e-commerce growth, this projections for this year. The first one is obviously the Amazon factor. Now I know there is a lot of buzz around the e-commerce growth, etc., etc. But and obviously, probably all of you are cognizant of the fact that, as our data shows as well, that one out of every $3 which is sort of going into Amazon's pocket. But I have sort of a couple of rather more interesting observations in terms of the incremental dollars which are going into Amazon's pocket as well. But very clearly, the Amazon's share will continue to increase, driven by the aggressive promotion. This is a very clear case of a company which got its strategy right, and obviously with absolutely amazing execution. Whether it is in terms of the very aggressive promotions which Amazon runs, the growth of its marketplace, which has become a monster now, and with the obvious success, even though it is a little too early to call it a just a runaway success, but it's very clearly Alexa is the voice search device now in the market. Christmas in July, which the concept which Amazon has started a few years back, driven by the Amazon Prime Day, and which a lot of other retailers are basically copying what they have started, already is blocking in a lot of the consumer spending very early. And that, again, per the reports that I have really sort of referred to, very clearly seem to be again a big success this year for Amazon. So that factor is somehow really playing a very, very big role, which is somehow really overall taking a lot of sting away from a lot of mid-size and even larger retailers. It's almost like a shifting of dollars. People are spending a certain amount of money, which is, let us say, 10% more than last year. But there is one company which is garnering a higher chunk of this incremental spending of the users, and that happens to be Amazon. The second one, obviously, is the shift of website sales to marketplaces. So what we are seeing is, earlier we are seeing a lot of small businesses who were selling from their website, but now they have shifted a majority of their sales to marketplaces. And this is not really a one-off incident. This is happening really in droves. There are like huge number of companies, and I'm comparing just in the last 2 years, which have shifted their focus from selling through their website to selling of the marketplaces. Understandably, they are doing this because Amazon, primarily, or even others like Jet.com, etc., they provide a tremendous amount of reach. The only challenge is, are they really sort of growing their overall sales when you collect the website sales plus the Amazon or whatever marketplace sales? Probably not as much. The overall incremental increase in their overall sales is not really as much. It is just sort of shifting from selling from their website to selling on marketplaces. And last but not the least, there are certain macroeconomic factors which have been in play, and that's probably sort of leading to. And we were interestingly, we were very surprised by the sudden stalling of growth, year-on-year growth, from this 27th of May, as I mentioned. And somehow I think we feel that there are a lot of macroeconomic factors which are sort of going behind this as well. There are obviously larger geopolitical factors, but I'll not really touch upon that. Some of the macroeconomic factors has been the overall retail sentiment. I mean, I'm sure that all of you have read this, and probably in certain cases, in my opinion, maybe a little too hyped as well, the demise of the store retailers, etc., etc. Well, the reason I think it is hyped because I think it is probably not as radical as a lot which sort of media makes it out to. But still, there is obviously a shifting which is really happening in this retail landscape. And this shift, any shift, obviously is a big change. And any big change obviously comes with a bit of a slack or a bit of a lag in terms of the overall industry growth. And that's what we feel is really being responsible for slightly slow down in terms of the e-commerce growth, and obviously sort of help driving us to really forecast a lot more conservatively as well. Two forces that will still support a double-digit growth. The first one obviously is mobile. Mobile is just surging ahead. It's a force. it is a huge force. We, in fact, are actually going ahead and forecasting that 35% of all the online purchases will happen through mobile phones. That is a significant jump, considering that this number that we had forecasted, and I was referring back to our 2015 holiday forecasting report, was just about 22%. So that's a massive 13% increase in a span of 24 months. So that is something which is going to really play a hugely important part in terms of driving a double-digit year-on-year e-commerce growth. Uh, the other part that we are seeing is there is a lot of more well integrated fulfillment. So the number of near me searches really have picked up significantly. There is a big push which continues to buy online and pick up in store, and there are a lot of other factors which are really helping make the entire shopping experience frictionless. So they are constantly trying to remove the friction, thereby increasing the velocity of the entire purchasing process. Now, albeit the average order value may not really go up as much, but if the frequency is something which has definitely been impacted quite substantially through both mobile as well as obviously voice search and the constant innovation which the retailers have been doing at their end as well. But again, the big winner will be Amazon, and I really wanted to do. We had our team of analysts have done some calculation as to how big will Amazon's incremental growth be? How much of a share of wallet will they really be able to take this holiday season? And what does it really amount to in terms of how many billions extra? So we had done some math, and this is based on the US e-commerce revenue, and this is basically a projected data. So last year, again, part of the available data on ScomScore and NRF, the US e-commerce segment was about $76-77 billion. So if you really add on a 10% growth this year, the overall holiday online sales should be around $84 billion, right? 77, 10%, roughly about 84. 76, 10% is roughly about 84. So there would be an extra $8 billion that online shoppers would spend. So let me repeat that there would have an incremental extra $8 billion which will be spent by the online shoppers or during online shopping. Now, effectively, if you really look at it, let us see as to how much of that spend will really go in Amazon's pockets. So Amazon's share essentially will grow. As we had seen last year was 30%. Our projections are it will go up to 34% this year. And what does it really mean in terms of the revenue? So 2017, Amazon holiday sales, 34% of $84 billion, which I just presented in the last slide, amounts to about $28.5 billion. 2016 Amazon holiday sale, this is actual number, 30% of $77 billion last year, they had $23 billion. So how much is the additional amount which Amazon is sort of garnering? They are garnering 28.5 minus $23 billion, which amounts to a whopping $5.5 billion. That is what Amazon's incremental holiday bounty is. And $5.5 billion out of $8 billion means the rest of online retailers, this is aggregated across, so it includes the Walmarts, the Targets, the Macy's, and everyone. They will get about $2.5 billion of this incremental spending, which the US online shopper does between the 1st of November, basically in the months of November and December. Incredible, isn't it? $5.5 billion out of $8 billion amount to about 65% of the incremental $8 billion is going to be garnered by Amazon. And when I'm saying Amazon, it is basically not only through Amazon sales, but also the marketplaces and everything that sort of goes in. Transacted through Amazon, obviously multiplied by the percentage, because Amazon doesn't really get the entire sale value. It gets a certain percentage of the overall sales that is transactions are happening. Huge, phenomenal. This is just gives you an understanding of how big and why we are sort of saying that there is just purely, in our opinion, one market mover, and that happens to be Amazon. So it has been a practice again since 2008 for us to publish holiday calendar. Now, what is this concept of holiday calendar? So during the holiday season, understandably, when you have all the retailers competing to garner a pie of this 2.5 incremental billion dollars, and when I talk of all retailers, is probably we are talking about millions of companies out there. Understandably, the planning has to really step up to a very different level. The planning has to really be done on a day by day basis, and every day is literally a war, right? War to really get basically an get a certain percentage or pie of the overall spending that the consumer is making. So we have been publishing this calendar, which again has obviously a big skew towards the pay per click and the CPCs and the cost per click part as well. But we also have seen, since we have been tracking this for 9 years now, we have obviously been seeing very clearly that that very clearly some of these things can be very well predicted. And our aspiration of presenting this calendar is, if the as a retailer you follow this calendar, you'll be able to sort of create a much stronger marketing plan for the holidays. So, but let us sort of move into the specifics of the calendar before I really present or really launch the calendar. The first observation is the number of days between Thanksgiving and Christmas is higher than the past few years. It's probably the highest that it has been in the last 10 years, which is that the time gap between Thanksgiving, which is on the 23rd of November this year, till Christmas. So that time gap is the highest. So essentially, the retailers can really get creative to maximize their sales during this period. They have a lot more time. The second, we are seeing the voice-led purchases, again, mostly through Alexa, because 9 out of 10 devices probably currently, which are in that category, is probably Alexa, will experience a 1.5 to 2 times year-on-year increase. Again, a smaller base may not sort of mean much in terms of absolute numbers, but it is a very strong, healthy upwards trend. Despite having more time for planned gift purchases, we'll see a greater percentage of consumers will continue to wait till the last minute. So a lot of interesting promotions and marketing plans need to be focused on December 20th to 22nd, almost like the last minute purchases. And we believe that mobile can play a very, very important role then. One day shipping and order online and pick up in store will play a very important role for this customer group. And so will the local plus mobile combination, as I mentioned. Purchases made from the mobile phones will cost 35% of all the online. That's huge, 1 in 3. The last one is a new trend that we really wanted to promote. And I really wanted to introduce this terminology, the terminology me buys, right? The me buys concept is, we are seeing that the post Christmas period, a lot of people are using those or taking advantage of these huge discounts which many of the retailers run to buy stuff for themselves, right? It's almost like till Christmas it is the gifting time, and after that it is I'm sort of gifting myself. See, rather than gifting, it becomes almost like a me buys or buying for myself, and that will experience a substantial year-on-year increase as well this year. So this is where I'm really sort of very pleased to present our ninth holiday marketing calendar, the 2017 holiday search marketing calendar. Let me very quickly explain. I'm probably sort of just going a little, we'll probably have to go a little beyond our overall time limit, so bear with me on this thing. But let me explain this calendar a little bit. We have taken this 19th of November till 30th of December as the time period for this calendar. All the circles which have been marked yellow, you will see a moderate amount of competitive intensity. This is higher than average, but a fair amount of competition will be there. So I think a lot of companies are really bidding on the terms. A lot of companies are selling. There is a little bit of a consumer demand at this time. The orange circles essentially is where we'll see a higher competitive intensity. So in terms of paid search, what it means is the number of advertisers that would be bidding on the top retail keywords probably will increase maybe about 1.5 to 2 times, specifically on these days. And then we have very high intensity days, which are essentially marked green. And these are the days where the paid search competition increases even further. It sort of grows from, if you really take X is the intensity in the moderate times, this becomes almost like a 3X sort of a situation. There are a lot of many people sort of jumping in. They are all competing for the same keywords to be on the first page, etc. Now, why is that so? Primarily because if you really track the overall demand, which we are tracking through the actual online purchases, and also track all the search queries, because if you really look at it, you search and then you buy, right? So let me repeat that: you search and then you buy. So we have seen that the search query mapping has a great predictor of the online sales which are really made. So from that perspective, these green dates are the ones where there would be very, very, very tough competition. And these are the green dates which I have marked. So obviously, the Thanksgiving, the 24th is Black Friday, needless to say. Then 26th, the Sunday preceding Cyber Mondays, then Cyber Monday, of course. And then 10th, 11th, obviously, being the Green Monday, as they sort of call it. Look at the last 4 days, 17th to 20th. Now, I know a lot of you are sort of using the shipping variations, and we have a lot of our friends from UPS. We are UPS's search marketing partner. So my only request is to all the retail folks out there, please have those conversations right now with your logistics provider, with your friends from UPS, so that you are able to sort of be cognizant of these dates, because there would not be any slowing down in terms of the shipping intensity between, and also the purchase intensity between the 17th to 20th. And this is something which provides you an opportunity to gain a significant amount of almost like a end of the holiday bump in terms of sales. Also, very interestingly, you'll see this 28th, 29th, and 30th. So we'll expect this me buys bump at that point in time. So there are a lot of discounting which is sort of going on at this time, and specifically in areas like apparel, areas like jewelry, shoes. Not as much in consumer electronics, probably more so. Probably a little bit in consumer electronics part, but jewelry is definitely strong. Watches are very strong. You will see a lot of me buys happening on the 28th, 29th, and the 30th of December. How exactly do you use this calendar? I think a lot of people tend to really have their promotions or very competitive pricing in all the green mark dates, because there's obviously a huge amount of volume, there is a huge amount of demand. But my request is just be cognizant that the competition is going to be thinking the same as well. Please, you can use this calendar in a very strategic manner to gain a competitive edge over the others, because if you have used this and the others have not, you can really plan out your promotions a lot better. For example, maybe there may be some of these dates which are really moderately strong dates, where you can really change your promotion strategy so as to focus on maybe just one product line or maybe one category, etc., and which can give you a significant edge. Because as I mentioned, holiday season, every day you literally are just sort of fighting for that extra dollar, sort of gaining that extra dollar from your consumer as well. So we'll be sharing this calendar and the deck with all the attendees who are there, and we have a huge number of attendees today for this holiday season webinar. But that's what I really wanted to present to you as well. You can also download this from netelixir.com/holidays, and you can just download this calendar there as well. So moving on, I'll just sort of very quickly wrap up this with three retail, maybe a couple of retail marketing strategies. And we have very specifically highlighted a brutally competitive holiday season, because that's what we are really forecasting this year as well. The first one obviously goes without saying, bring a smile to the mobile shopper. And in case you are curious as to what does this slide look like, we also are giving out very specifically books this holiday season, and you can download the books. Again, this is it should be actually holidays rather than netelixir.com/holiday 2016. So holidays, the same thing. You can download your copy of the workbook as well, which will really help you build or create much smarter holiday time search marketing or the mobile search marketing plans as well. So again, go for a mobile responsive website. Use the Google speed tools which are out there. The speed obviously has to be less than 3 seconds in terms of the speed load, the page load. You should definitely sort of figure out as to how exactly you really want to sort of just solve this problem of non-optimized images, non-minified sources, and too many requests. And please do optimize for near me searches, especially if you are stores, because we believe that 100% plus growth in search queries will continue to happen for near me searches even this holiday season as well. We have been able to adopt a lot of these things to grow Teleflora, one of our customers, for the last 3 years. Their traffic quite substantially. In fact, this Teleflora success really got us an entry into the Search Innovation Awards, the top 5 shortlisted players from US as well. And we have used some of these strategies which we have detailed in this workbook. Our request would be, go ahead and download this workbook, bring your team together, work together, and come up with a mobile marketing plan, because mobile will be big. As I mentioned, 35% of all the purchases this holiday season would be mobile. We have 3 PLA tactics as well. I'll not really get too deep into each one of these. We feel for most segments that we have really mapped, 40 to 50% of your budget should be focused only on the PLAs. A very quick way to explain this pyramid. On the top of the pyramid is what you have the top performing IDs. So we have seen, having sort of worked with more than 450 retailers in the last about 10 years or so, that most of the retailers really, their sales really follow a 5% 90% rule. So 5% of your SKUs account for 90% of your profitable revenues. So our request is, take these 5% and create those individual groups or ad groups for PLAs around these 5% of the SKUs, because that's what, and bid the highest for these SKUs. And then you, as usually, sort of progressively go down, focus on the top categories, then products, and so on. So that's, I think, one of the structures which has really helped us a lot. But first of all, identify as to what are these 5% of the SKUs which account for 90% of your profitable revenues. The second one, obviously, is optimizing the feed. I think just very, very basic stuff. Regularly, we have seen a lot of very large retailers that we work with. There is understandably a challenge in terms of they're optimizing the feed, as a result of which their ads don't really show up for all the right keywords. So you may want to fix that and take a look at that, because you don't really want to lose any sales just because ad is not showing up during the holiday season. You also should be adding the product viewers as well. So that's again another interesting and a useful holiday PLA strategy also. So again, all of these things are really captured in our workbook. Again, you can sort of download the workbook, netelixir.com/holidays, and you can sort of really work with the team to get this thing right. So just to summarize the presentation before I hand it back to Stephen for the wrap up, is we are predicting, I know we have a lot of analysts today who are joining this thing, so thank you very much for joining this call. We are predicting a 10% year-on-year growth in holiday e-commerce revenues. We are predicting that Amazon's share of total online holiday sales this year will grow to about 34%. We are predicting that mobile shopping will continue to surge and exceed 35% of the total online sales this year. And one of my recommendations, something that I will very highly advise, is please do use our holiday marketing calendar to design a much more effective holiday marketing plan, because the competition that you can expect would be exceptionally high this holiday season. With that, let me sort of pass it on to Stephen for the wrap up.
Great. Thank you, Uday. And that was a wonderfully educational session. Before I jump into some of these follow-up slides, I'd like everyone, if you have questions, start typing them in now, just so that way we avoid any of those awkward pauses and silences that you sometimes hear at the end of webinars. So the first thing I want to share, if you hadn't heard the first few times we mentioned, please check out this holiday readiness workbook. It's about 25 pages. It's something you can work through with your team to help organize your strategy, as well as learn some new tactics to help you win on the holidays. And that's a very simple URL to remember, www.netelixir.com/holidays. In addition to that, we're also doing some holiday readiness workshops this year. So these are one-on-one sessions where we actually put you on the phone with one of our paid search experts. And you're not getting a junior person, you're getting someone with a minimum of 7 to 8 years experience on this call, to answer your holiday questions, review your product set, review your advertising strategies, and provide you with some real practical tips to help you grow. Now, we're only doing 20 of these sessions. We do have to limit it, so if you are interested, please get in touch with us right away. Or you can visit, again, netelixir.com/holidays to request your invitation. Finally, for those of you who want a deeper look and who say, I know I need this done, but don't simply have the resources or time to do it, we are offering some paid audits where we will put our entire team to dig deep into your accounts, whether it's just your AdWords text ads, your PLA ads, or even any of your other search marketing efforts. We could put our team on the case for you to make sure that your account is fully set up, fully optimized, and there's no quote-unquote leaky buckets going into the holiday season. Again, you may have heard me say this, netelixir.com/holidays to get that set up. So again, thank you all for jumping on. We really appreciate you taking the time to join the webinar. I'm going to take some time now to answer some of the questions that you have asked. So let me jump in really quickly and pull this up. Okay, great. So I have right now Cindy, who's asked me offline. Cindy said, should all retailers start selling on Amazon alongside our websites since it's continuing to eat so much market share? So I'm going to let Udayan jump into this and answer that question.
Great question, Cindy. So it's a great question, and I think every business is unique. So I may not really be able to say that this applies to everyone, but I think every business needs to decide as to how much do you really want to focus on selling from your website versus how much really you want to focus on selling through Amazon. And this becomes exceptionally important primarily because there are pros and cons for both. I mean, selling on the website, it's obviously a preferred choice because you own the customer, you own all the data, and thereby you are able to really sort of market to the customer a lot better moving forward. And understandably, you are not really probably giving out any margins to Amazon or any other marketplace as a return. On the other hand, the reach obviously that you may be able to get in a very competitive search marketing landscape like today's may not be as much as probably you may be able to get a much higher reach if you really advertise on some of these marketplaces like the Amazon or the Jet. So it's just a trade-off essentially. By advertising on marketplaces, you have to be cognizant of the fact that there are certain challenges which are there. Obviously, the data is getting shared, and more importantly, you are giving a fair amount percentage of margin as well to the marketplaces for allowing you to really sort of advertise and market through that. So it's basically a completely a business dependent choice, and that would be my answer as such. Yeah.
Great, great, great. Thank you, Udayan. And we'll answer one more question, and then we'll jump off so that we can keep this at the 45-minute mark. Donald is asking me, do you see any other retail trends affecting the holiday season?
That's a great question. So we have already mentioned about the mobile being a very important part, the local plus mobile being a tremendously important role. Social obviously will continue to be an important part as well. One of the things I really wanted to call out, Stephen, and again a great question, Donald, is essentially I think a lot of stores, and I think that's the reason I mentioned that the demise of the stores and the brick and mortar I think has been a little too overhyped in my opinion. Uh, Obviously, the format of stores moving forward would change. You'll have to think strategically whether a store, what is the purpose of a store for your business? Is it a distribution center? Is it just an experiential showroom that you have? Or is it just maybe a social place where your customers can come and just sort of hang out and have a good time with other customers who happen to be your brand evangelists? So again, the purpose of the store obviously has to be rethought of very carefully by brick and mortar retailers. But that would be, I think, one of the trends which a lot of brick and mortar retailers would need to focus on. So that's, I think, one of the other trends other than the mobile, the local, and obviously the social, which will keep on growing very important. And this holiday season, yeah.
Great, thank you so much. For those of you who are a little shy or don't have something offhand, if you do have any other questions, please feel free to send us an email. You can send it to info@netelixir.com, or I encourage you to connect with Udayan directly on LinkedIn, where you can share private messages and ask your questions directly. And finally, to sign up for any of the offers that we announced before, including the workbook, the holiday readiness clinics, and the paid audits, you can go to www.netelixir.com/holidays. Thank you very much, everyone, and we hope that you have a winning holiday season.
Thank you very much.